Look, at 9:01, my kids were alive and well. At 9:02, it's done.
In a matter of 5 minutes, I found out that they were not only not okay, but they were all three gone.
Lindy was our memory maker. She videoed, photographed, documented everyday life. She would video her and Kamryn in the grocery store, find a little canned good, put her camera against, and they would do a little dance in the store. I mean, we have so many videos of that. She was the most creative person I have ever met in my life. If you were ever around Lindy, you were going to be a victim to her camera, whether knowingly or unknowingly. She had just landed her dream job at her college, Nichols State University, as the campus photographer. She was supposed to start that job in January of 22, but unfortunately that day never came for her. Christopher was an amazing athlete. He was picked to be first team All-State for basketball, Golden Glove Award for baseball. He was going to be valedictorian of his class. He was extremely academic. He had his future planned out meticulously. One of the things that blesses me most about him, though, is he was a young man of integrity. If Christopher gave you your word, you could count on it. And Kamryn, she was 41 days short of her 16th birthday. She was counting the days down for getting her driver's license. Kamryn was the kindest person I have ever met in my life. Like if we were leaving Walmart and she'd see a little person holding up a sign in need for a helping hand. If I didn't have money in my purse, Mom, go to the money machine. To this day, whenever I see people who are in need, I will always give them a little money in her memory.
I was definitely the big sister. They knew that I was feisty, but they knew to come to me if they needed anything. Being that we have such a big age gap, I kind of viewed them more like my children. I really didn't realize what I had until they weren't here.
Christopher had a basketball game in Monroe, Louisiana, which is about 4 hours from where we live. They won, they were undefeated. And last game before winter break, and the kids were hungry, so we stopped at Subway after the basketball game, and we pulled out of Subway at 7:06 and started to head home. The crash was at 9:01, and my last memory of that night is leaving Subway at 7:06. A drunk driver was going northbound and he hit his head on doing between 80 and 90 miles per hour. We were doing 75 miles per hour, which is the speed limit on that interstate.
What the state troopers determined was that he most likely exited on the wrong way and drove for 6 miles before he crashed into them. And he was determined to be 3 times the legal limit. I was at my brother and sister-in-law's house. They had a Christmas party that night. I knew my mom and my siblings were going to the basketball game. My daughter, who's 13, actually thought about going, but there wasn't room in the car for her. My phone rang and it was my dad calling, and my dad doesn't usually call me ever. He said, "Hey, Mom's been in a wreck. It doesn't look good, but they said she's stable." The whole way to the hospital, I was worried about my mom. The kids never even crossed my mind that they might have been severely injured. To me, they're invincible. They're kids, they're young, they're healthy. When I pulled into the hospital parking garage, I seen my brother and my dad, and they were frantic. There's a Facebook article, it's saying somebody died in the crash. I pulled up the article, and the article said there was 2 fatalities and everyone else was critically injured. It didn't say any names. I went to the front desk in the hospital and asked if my mom was there and if my siblings were there, and they told me only my mom was there. And I was just so confused, like, where would they be if they weren't at the hospital? We started calling local hospitals. My dad gets a call from a state trooper, and he says, the young blonde driver that was driving the car passed away. So my dad starts crying, Lindy, Lindy. We just assumed it was Lindy because she was just the most likely to have been driving because she was 20 and my mom doesn't see very good at night. At this point, I really went into fight or flight. I needed to know where the other ones were. I needed to find them. The state trooper that was on the phone with my dad told him that most likely they were at a hospital called Opelousas General because I was the closest one to the crash. I called in the way and I said, can you tell me if y'all have someone that was in a wreck and maybe y'all don't have a name on them? And she said, yes. She said, we have a young girl here. If someone wants, they can come identify her. And I said, what do you mean identify? And she said, you can come tell us if you know her. I really thought I was gonna walk into a hospital, see them in a hospital bed, you know, broken leg, broken arm, whatever, but they would be fine. So I got to the hospital and I found a nurse. I showed him a picture of both girls, Lindy and Kamryn, and he said, come to the back. And I just knew. I walked into a hospital room and my 15-year-old sister was in a body bag, but she looked perfect. So I said, are y'all sure? He said, there was nothing we could do. He came back in the room a couple minutes later and he said, I found your brother. He is at Bunkie General. And I said, oh, thank God. I know he's probably not okay, but at least he's alive. And he shook his head no. And I was like, what? And he was like, I'm sorry. They were all three gone. And just like that.
While I was in ICU, I would just kind of come in and out of consciousness. And I can just remember asking, like, where's the kids? And they would say, like, oh, Mom, just rest, you know, just worry about getting better. And I can kind of remember thinking in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, that's not the answer I'm looking for. After I had the first surgery on one of my legs, the doctors had given the family the okay to tell me. She came into the room and she said, hey, Mom. And I said, Katie, where are the kids? And she was starting to back up and one of the pastors pushed her forward and said, Katie, tell her. And she said, Mom, I'm so sorry. She said, they're gone. And I said, all of them? And she said, yes, Mom, I'm so sorry. As crazy as this sounds, I'm so thankful that I was so critically injured because I tell you, I could not have taken the weight of what she had to go through that night.
There is nothing in my life that is untouched. She was forced into retirement because of her injuries, and the other brother that was living at home, he's since moved out, so all of a sudden they have an empty house. My children lost their aunts and uncle who were like their best friends.
The family that we had, that family died that night. That family of Mom, Dad, 9 kids, it died that night. A piece of our heart, every one of us, a piece of our heart died that night. A lot of times the mindset is when people drive drunk is, I don't want to get caught. I don't want to get caught. We want to make people understand that, no, your thought process should be, I don't want to injure or kill someone. I never, ever thought anything like this would happen to my family. We were doing everything right. Seatbelts on, speed limit, just trying to get home from a basketball game. But it can happen to you. I'm sure the man who did this to my kids didn't start out his day saying, I think I'm gonna get drunk, go drive, and I think I'm gonna kill 3 beautiful teenagers today. I don't think that was his thought process, but it happens that fast and you cannot go back. We just wanna continue to tell that story and educate people. If it makes even a couple people make a better decision, then it's worth everything that we're doing. I do not want another family to have to go through this.
They are seen. Are you?